Scott here, once again, doing a DIY instructional video on a solar panel system by himself, 100% by himself. I've teamed up with Solar Wholesale on this DIY kit. Mention my name or one of my videos to receive a $250 discount. And don't forget to ask to see what current other discounts they may have. So click in the link below, which takes you to their website, or give them a call. Not looking to do a rooftop system? So click here on a link for my instructional video on how to install a ground mount system. Help me out. Hit that like button down below. Smash it. Hit it for me. Subscribe to help out the YouTube algorithm. So here is the kit all wrapped up. Solar Wholesale only uses the SnapNrack system on all their DIY kits. This is why I like Solar Wholesale. They give everything you need in this kit. The cables for the inverters, all the electrical stuff, your ground, the wire going through the conduit, your joiner box or your breaker box. And then you can give you screws in just in case if you got to go through concrete. Your disconnect switch, your conduit, you're even down to the hand tools you need, the drill. And then all the mid clamps, end clamps, and all the hardware you need to do your job. There are two ways to start to lay off your panels. One way, you have the measurement from the top down, and then you measure it from the right or left. On this project, we're running the panels all the way to the gutter, so I know what that's going to be. So I'm going to take my measurement from the bottom up for my first rail. So normally there's a fire setback from the edges, peaks, and valleys, but you can get your county or your fire station to sign off on be able to go to the edges, to the valleys, and to the peak. So this helps you get more panels on your roof. So just contact your county, or I did for my project, my last video, my fire station, they approved that the panels can go to the peaks, the valleys, and the edges. Main reason because they're not going to get on the roof, because my roof was pretty steep. So my panels are going to be about 2 inches from the edge, and you want about 25% of the panel hanging over. So we're going to be in landscape mode, which there's 66 inches, be roughly 16 inches. So I want to come up about 20 inches because that's where the lag bolt goes, and then the rail sits down another inch, and then the rail's about another inch wide. So it's a good idea you go ahead and hook your tape to your drill bit, and as you go along, depending what your spacing is underneath, 16 inches or 24 inches, put your tape here, then you can hit on the roof to find the better location of your truss, because not always it's perfect 16 inches or 24. So I went and snapped on my lines. Keep in mind you want the bolt, the mount, to be in the middle of the shingle. So it may not be 25%, but just get close as you can to 25% of the panel hanging off the rail. So I found it easier to, when I hook the tape, then whatever joist that I'm laying off, just to put a little tick mark. So, because I don't have two hands, so I went down and put all the tick marks. So I made the tick mark, came back. So right there is my stud, my joist, and I marked it with a crow's foot. And I found that a whole lot easier just to do a little mark on the top and then come back and find the joist. It is time to install the rail mount. So it consists of flashing, a 4-inch lag bolt, and the bracket. You first start off putting some silicone in the hole, and then do halfway, like a half moon, all the way around. Some of the big companies said, oh, your roof's gonna leak and all this other stuff. Hey, you never can have too much sealant. So if you want, just go ahead and extra sealant on there for just in case. And prior to this, you may want to use a flashing or some other kind of flat tool to get underneath the shingles. The bracket face down, like what goes in here. So when you have your line snaps, you can line it up here and here so you can have your flashing straight. It is the end of day one. I got all the brackets up. I started at 10 o'clock this morning. It's about probably 4:30. Not bad for one guy's worth of work, less than 8 hours. So installing these rails, you want to go ahead and loosen up the bolts that are on the clamp. Go ahead and face them all up. I feel it's easier that you take the back side, you stick it in, and you just squeeze this up. And just go ahead and keep them loose for now so you can slide it back and forth to which edge you want to start, so you keep that flush so you don't have to make any cuts. I'm going to set my rail height and my edge on the side that I'm not going to cut. I got the gas vent right there. I've measured and squared it up so that top rail is good. So I'm going to measure 2 feet in on every single rail all the way down, and we square it to that rail so I can line it up the 2 feet, so it'll be the same distance all the way down. And then with that, I can get the same height. All right, I've gone and laid off 2 feet on every single rail, and I was using my clamp, but the clamp I'm using was too thick. So, and I feel like this is the high side, so I can't push down lower. So I improvised and used a mid clamp. This was a great substitute. So now I can go through as an example. So I went and replaced my clamps that I have, and I feel this is the higher side because I'll show you later on some of the big dips in the roof because it's never perfect. So I marked this in red just so you guys can see, so I can slide this over and then get to the height and then tighten it down. After you get your non-cut side set, go to your cut side and get all those heights the same, and hopefully as you pull the string line that there's enough give in each one that you don't have to go too high or too low, because if that happens then you're going to have to adjust this height again. All right, this is your rail splice. You just loosen up a little bit and it just snaps right in, and the bolt is the center of the splice, so that's where you put the seam. And one thing, so sometimes depending on how each end starts, the break might be pretty close to a bracket, so you might have to cut it. Like this instance, I cut off a foot, but at plenty, still plenty of rail so I can cut this off and move it this way so it's not on the bracket. Keep in mind when you're tightening up these bolts, they do have a torque on them, so make sure you don't over tighten them. All right, it's very important to straighten out your rails using a string line so you don't get waves in your panels. I have mentioned in my other video, and I'm going to go in more detail on this one. So you got to lash whatever block you want to use, but I'm going to just use a 2x4. Lash around, then go around this way to tighten it up, and then go all the way down there, and you want to lash it up, pull it tight, and lash it around. And as I pulled, the block was sliding, so I ended up using one of these microinverter hardware and push it, and it keeps this block from pulling that way. After you get both blocks set and nice and tight, go through with another block. So I'm at my first roof bracket. As you can see, it's pretty close, so I'll go ahead and tighten that bolt up. and then just work your way down to the very end. So on this bracket, my string line is too low, so I gotta have to go ahead and adjust it, push it down, and then tighten that up. Hopefully the side you set for the height and square it all up, hopefully you don't have to go back and change that, because it's hard to tell where in the roof what's high and what's low. This is what you call a microinverter. This installs on the rail right underneath the panel, and it converts your DC to AC right underneath the panel. This is what you use for the microinverters. There's that lovely sound of the snap. Take your inverter, make sure it is right in there. And as easy as that. So when you lay off the inverters, make sure they're underneath the inverter, not where it splits or anything like that. Keep them completely covered. Perhaps the one that goes over top of it, it will reach it, but when they don't reach, you'll get these little extension cords for your panels. And for this situation, it's pretty square, so I already know where all the panels are going to go. So now I'm going to go and run all these wires and drop them off where the panel is going to lay. All right, so this inverter, the panel go over top of that will hook straight to this. These two wires are going to go to this panel. These four wires are going to go to the panel there and the panel next to it. So keep in mind, when you're running these cables like this, do a test to make sure they don't touch the roof. Push them down so no wires touch the roof. You can always use extra tie wraps. You can never use too many tie wraps. These are the cables that are part of the kit, which connect your inverters together. They're just daisy chained one after another, and if the one next to it is not long enough to get the next inverter, they give you a cap. Put the cap on, line up the arrows, push it down, and then put some electrical tape on it for some additional protection. What I suggest, there's going to be an end that needs to be capped off, so you cut it maybe 6 to 10 inches from the connector, and we need to go ahead and put this cap on. Score it about an inch or so from the end. Comes off just like that. And go ahead and cut about 3/4 to an inch of conductor. Take the cap, the threaded part put on, the rubber grommet, and then inside are little sections. Just go ahead and put one in each section, push it up, slide that grommet right in there, and tighten it up. See the gasket poking through? Give it a good snug. That makes it watertight. So I went and ran my cables, and I know the distance of all the panels, so I set back, put that there. Another thing to keep in mind is where the panels end break, because that's where the panel will hit this. So you got to do your best to know where that happens, so when stuff does stick up a little bit, that it doesn't hit it. Stuff like here. So this inverter is the first in line. So there's, I connected the inverter with some tape. There's the cap I just showed you. Then it wasn't long enough, so you put that cap on and put some tape on it. It just daisy chain from that inverter to this inverter to that inverter. And then my roof junction box, I plan on going through here, and that's where this cable will tie in with the Romex wire. So here's your grounding clamp. You use the 6-gauge solid wire, which is, copper. Slides in here. Tighten it down. One thing to keep in mind, this is copper and these rails are aluminum. So they're dissimilar metals. So they're touching, they corrode the copper. So hey, keep it off the next rail. Or put some electrical tape to kind of keep a barrier just in case if it touches. And then you're going to need to put that grounding clamp on every row that inverter is on. Alright, here's your roof junction box. For this array we just need one. All the cables from each array is going to come into here. The power panel's down over here, so pick an area where you want to put it. You can use your lid as to trace the one layer of shingles you need to cut, and then also have arrangement of where you need to make your penetrations for your cables. So depending on where the nails are, the next row up, you're gonna have to loosen this up to find out what the nails are, so you can be able to slide it up all the way. So I laid off where my nylon tube is gonna go, and go ahead and drill the holes. It is best to use a hole saw when drilling these holes, especially with this type of plastic. And then once you get your holes drilled, I suggest one at a time you could tighten down your tubes. It makes it easier. You have more room to spin. All right, got my tubes on. So I'm gonna go ahead and dry fit it, make sure everything looks good before I put the sealant on. And then once that's done, put the sealant on, and then let's drill through the roof. So I got the roof junction box hooked up. Our 3 arrays. It's pretty simple, black to black, white to red. Each array gets their own cable. I use the grounding wire to hold up the cables off the roof. Make sure everything is snug to make sure everything's tight. You got your grounds down here, make sure that's all tight. And then you can put them in there and close it up. So here's one of your mid clamps. There's a couple different styles, and each style does have different torque specs. So I'll leave the link for SnapNrack's manual in the description below. It goes in just like this, snaps in, and then you slide in the panel. So in between each row, you want to leave a gap, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. I use this mid clamp right here. You got your gap. You can tighten your bolts down. Here is the end clamp. And last, your end clamp. All right, we're gonna go over the electrical part of this installation. So what I like to use are these vinyl mounting blocks that they use for siding for lights or whatever they want to use it for. And we put the combiner box, which is the breaker box where all the arrays come in, and then they get to one bigger wire that goes to the disconnect switches going here. Then we're gonna go and enter the house, which on the other side of this wall is the breaker panel. Way up there is the attic, so we're gonna bring the conduit out of the house, come all the way down into the breaker panel, and then we're just gonna do conduit going across and then into the house. I just want to give you a quick update on what I've got done. I got the breaker box up, and then with these mounts I stuck 2x4 behind it to give it something solid to screw to, and then now I'm gonna put the disconnect switch up. All right, got my conduit ran all the way from up there. All right, I'm up here in the attic. I'm just gonna show you where the Romex cables came in from the roof junction box, and then where they exit out to the side of the house down to the combiner box. Here it comes through the roof junction box. Just goes a few feet down from the trusses into this little connection box, through the conduit, and out through the siding. Got my wires ran, connector, and then we go ahead and run the conduit from here to there and get this connected, and then go ahead and work on this. All right, just got the outside electrical done. As you can see here, here's all your array cables all coming in to the bottom of these 3 breakers. So 3 arrays, 3 breakers, 20 amps each. And then it combines into one, into a bigger conductor. Then it hooks into this fuse disconnect switch. Hook to the top, hook at the bottom. Got my grounds, I put a grounding bar in, and then it comes to this conduit, and then straight in the back of the panel. All right, all the electrical's finished. I got the main panel hooked up. Came through here, went down, got a little bit of slack, and I used a breaker for this situation because they had room in here. Check out this time lapse of me doing the whole system by myself, 100%. Hope you enjoy.
There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games, no. There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games, no. There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games, no. There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that small clip. So if one guy can do this project, pretty sure you can do it too, or have some help. Don't let those big companies tell you it's all hard and spend all that kind of money. Doing it by yourself can save you thousands to tens of thousands of dollars on their solar panel system. Click here for my original rooftop instructional video, and that has some other things that I can't show on this video since this is not my residence. Remember, this is an instructional video purpose only, so build at your own risk. So if you have any questions about electrical work, see a professional. Any roofing concerns, see a professional. Please subscribe to my channel so you can keep updates on any new videos, any new clips I put out there for solar, DIY, or any other videos I like to make to help you out. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you soon on the next one.